idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Denver Michaels. Denver is an author with a passion for cryptozoology, the paranormal, lost civilizations, and all things unexplained. At age 42, the Virginia native released his first book, People Are Seeing Something, a culmination of many years of research into the lake monster phenomenon. Since then, he has gone on to write Water Monsters South of the Border and Wild and Wonderful and Paranormal, West Virginia. His latest book, Giants, Men of Renown, will be coming out in September 2020. Denver, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor. Oh, my dog's welcoming you too.
Confirmation.
Now, you two have met in person, correct?
No, I've not met.
In person, I was on a mistake, and Gary,
Was I?
yeah, I can't remember when it was, but
Last year sometime.
yeah, I think it probably was.
In the void.
For some reason, I thought it was maybe like at that CryptoCon down there in the South y'all had.
No,
Into one of those.
dude, you got to go this time if they have one this year.
Are we allowed?
Yeah, exactly. Are you? We may be locked down longer than we think.
Yeah, really.
I'm not allowed to leave my house, till June 10th, according to our wonderful.
Oh, Jesus.
We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, we just have to take it as it comes now.
You said calm.
Day by day. I mean, I was supposed to do a talk at a conference up in Pennsylvania in mid-April. So that's obviously not happening. So I've not even I've not even worked on a talk or anything. Everything's locked down.
It seems like everyone I'm speaking with recently, especially as creative types, that, and you're definitely in there, you're a writer, are sound similar. What you just said, it's like almost like we have this time to do stuff. We could get PowerPoints together, you get all this stuff, and everyone's like kind of stepped back, like I'm eating too much comfort food and not really getting anything else done. It's like there's a sense of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It's almost like the lockdown has sucked away my motivation to do that kind of thing. Like I don't feel empowered to go be creative. It's like
That's where I'm at. I mean, I can't really do anything productive other than like clean out my garage thing, just mindless tasks like that. I'll come down here in my office and I just don't have any motivation to do anything. And then, I'm just, you're just kind of like, ugh, it's kind of numb. And then the only feelings I do have is I'll just get more pissed off or something when when the governor goes on and does an address or something like that. So yeah, about all I've accomplished is a lot of day drinking.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is what I'm hearing a lot from a lot of us. So it's in a sense good that we're not alone in that, because it's so over the top and something none of us, of course, this is a world event. So whatever it is, we're all in lockdown. And so that's what's crazy. It's like watching this unfold.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking. Like, if they do send me home from my day job, it's like, oh, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. And I'm gonna get so far ahead on all these, all these kind of long term projects I've been thinking about. I've not what.
I know. Oh my God.
Part of it is that, well, for me, I know that I've almost switched back into that obsessive news mode where I just want to watch everything I can about everything, what's going on, which is bad, I know, but
yeah,
I've gone the other way. I actually stepped away from the news. I was watching before, and now I'm like, it's zapping me so hard of my energy that it's not feeling productive. So I tap in.
Yeah, I've kind of felt like with like with Twitter, I'm more active on Twitter than I do a little bit of Facebook, but I pretty much hate Facebook. So Twitter's like the main social media thing that I do, but it's just so negative and just so it's like I spent a day. Well, I was saying earlier, cleaning out the garage. So I spent like a whole day, didn't check Twitter all day, and I felt great actually. And then, another day you go on Twitter a lot and it just brings you down. So I probably do need to unplug from things like that.
Yeah, I'm finding it helps. Oh my goodness, he never goes off like this. I have started listening to music right away in the morning instead of I used to check and see what was going on in the world, and it did change. It changes the timbre of my days now. I mean, it's actually helped, although it hasn't helped me with being productive, but my mood. So let's get in here. Denver. So give us a little bit of an outline as to what your earliest memories in life are that include your relationship with nature. Did you play outside a lot? Did you like cartoons? Which ones? That kind of stuff. Just young you, early stuff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in the country. I was born in southwestern Virginia, rural area, and as I guess middle school age, I moved up to northern Virginia, but still lived in a rural area. So I've always ran around in the woods and played outside and all that stuff growing up. As far as cartoons, I mean, I guess my favorite was like Bugs Bunny, the Looney Tunes, the stuff you could never get by with these days, where Bugs will just like shoot a guy, because he coughs or something. Those were like my favorite kind of cartoons, but also really liked Super Friends and those kind of, I mean, I'm really dating myself here, watching Super Friends, back in the day, things like that. So that's kind of that's that was kind of my favorite was the Looney Tunes and the superhero cartoons.
It's wild to look back at the Looney Tunes, especially now in this climate we live in. I mean, they would never fly ever.
There-
And they were so funny.
yeah, there was so much cultural appropriation going on, sexism, violence, alcohol and smoking and all of that kind of stuff, guns, just
Yeah, everything.
stuff that you would just laugh at. And, like on YouTube now and look at an old Bugs Bunny cartoon, you're like, oh my God, people would be getting fired and losing their jobs for showing this today. So,
Oh, I know. Look at all the 70s shows. I mean, seriously, Sanford and Son. And I mean, and the Jeffersons and stuff, that stuff would never fly today.
no, I mean, and, stuff that, I, and to illustrate your point, while we've been kind of locked down, me and the wife have been watching on Amazon Prime. They put that Buzzer channel on old, the old vintage 80s and 70s game shows, and we like to watch those and just be like, oh my God, look at look at the jokes they're telling, and things like that. It's really it's really an eye opener, compared to today's culture. What we grew up with, or what I grew up with. I mean, I don't know how old you are.
We're older
You know,
than you, I think.
I'm 46, so
I just turned
The
55.
Hollywood
Yeah.
Squares were looking back to amazing, so funny. People like Paul Lind and I mean, there was so much funny stuff, and it's funny looking at that stuff retrospectively. It was way more open and free, and people were laughing at themselves of all color. It was the whole period of the rainbow movement, right? Where it was like everyone was coming together and not apart. And so there was this, the Black community was overcoming, and, women were having a voice, and it was a whole different vibe, and everyone was still able to laugh, and we had great comedians, Joan Rivers, Don Rickles. I mean, there was just so much more freedom
Well,
of speech.
well, there still is. People just are self-censoring so much because they fear the retaliation.
Yeah, but they're censored so much. There's no freedom of speech really, because you lose a platform, and so what is that? And then people are being sued left and right.
Well, you can't really sue someone for free speech.
Do we have it anymore, Jerry? I mean, look at the Louis C.K. stuff. I mean, there's just so much stuff now where people are taking legal action over being offended by content.
You can't sue someone for being offended.
Well, it's out there and it's happening.
You have a lot of people being deplatformed, like
Yeah, that's true.
You're demonetized, or their YouTube channels, or you'll get locked up in Twitter jail or Facebook jail and can't post anything, and well, take Alex Jones, right? I mean, he doesn't have a platform, whether you think the guy's batshit crazy or entertain or whatever. I mean, should he not be allowed to post videos anymore? I mean, I think he should.
It's because they let women run these companies. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I see there's some old school humor. That's the thing, though. It is now like this lockdown. We've essentially lost our right, and it's a sad reality, but it's a nice reminder when we get people on that can remember the world as it was at one point, even if the content seems inappropriate to us. It still was like an exercise in, okay, this is still, there's still an idea of freedom here in speech and thought, and there was much more of a sense of folly, in a way, of jest, of laughing in my looking back at it all. It seemed like a lot more laughing was going on than there is now. Everything's so deadpan serious all the time.
Well, and even back then, right? If you did something or said something, maybe and maybe if generally a lot of people could see that maybe this wasn't appropriate or whatever, there wasn't a whole, just a whole group of people trying to do, get you in that gotcha moment, if that makes any sense. Like now everybody's like, aha, I got that tweet, and we're gonna
Yes.
find that tweet from 5 years ago of that thing that you said, and or as soon as someone becomes I've seen I'm a pretty big sports fan, so I follow baseball and football, and you see like a baseball player that was a nobody and tweeted something. Yeah, it was inappropriate or whatever, but he was actually in high school at the time. Goes through the minor league, signs a big league contract, and is in his second year. And all of a sudden, somebody retweets that, and so he's got to come out and he's got to do the teary-eyed apology and all of this stuff. And it's just so. I just hate that kind of gotcha culture, and if that makes
It does, and to me, that's all taken out of context too, and it also doesn't leave room for self evolution and personal movement. We grow. We all say we learn by doing stuff and moving through things, and it's like you can't make any mistakes now if you're growing up. Now it's like you just can't say the wrong thing. So everyone's so cinched in from beginning, from Jump Street now, whereas before it was looser. If you just think, I mean, the whole 70s movement anyway was a looser vibe because it had been more strict. The 50s were very cinched in. So yeah, we've lost something, and here we are. This is where the road took us. So back to your young childhood, Denver. Did you yes, so you're down there in Virginia, and nature is definitely a big part of people's lives down there. I love that area. Did you have a dream life at the time? Do you remember being a child that was dreaming a lot?
Oh yeah, I mean I was a constant daydreamer, and I I guess even now, it's like commuting to work. I'm driving, but my head's over here thinking of whatever. But yeah, I was a big time daydreamer in school. I mean, I was a pretty good student and everything. Up until I got into high school, I was always a good student. But yeah, I was a daydreamer, and I like being outside, and just kind of pondered. Kind of pondered things. Just I was just kind of a weird kid, I guess.
Well, I mean, obviously you have been open enough to pursue the subject matter of your books, and which all look fantastic, and all this crypto stuff and cryptid stuff. Uh, did you have early experiences with any of the strange back then?
Well, that's something that people always ask me, and there was nothing that I can really point to, in my childhood. I just have always, for whatever reason, been open to, you know, things like that. I I remember I was on a podcast and a guy was like, he's like, I just can't believe that, you would write books about this stuff, but you never had an experience when you were younger that led you to it. But I didn't. I was just always open to things. I mean, I can remember, just being real into different subject matter than my peers. I would check out books at the library about unusual things. I mean, I remember being 8 years old. I don't even remember how I learned this, but we're sitting down at the dinner table with my mom and dad, and my little brother and sister, and I don't know what prompted me to say it, but I was kind of like to my parents. I'm like, Columbus didn't found America. He was not the first explorer to reach North America. And my dad's just like, oh yeah, right. Who do you think did it then? So he just, you know, yeah, he didn't really want to hear the answer, by the way. He just kind of
Yeah.
jumped down. Be like, well, Leif Erikson and the Vikings, and it's going to tell him about Marco Polo, and the Chinese and all this stuff. But so I was just always kind of into all these alternate explanations for history, if you will. I was always open to the idea of you know um, cryptids, aliens, UFOs, just all that kind of stuff. I don't know why, but I was just always really into it. I think maybe I told you earlier that I was into Super Friends when I was a kid. I remember a episode that really stuck with me, and maybe it kind of like shaped me. It was the episode's called Universe of Evil, where the super friends, there's like this parallel universe, and some of the bad super friends come into our universe, and some of the good super friends are in the evil universe. And I mean, that really got me thinking about alternate realities and parallel universes and that sort of thing. Of course, I'm just 6 or 7 years old at the time and couldn't really process what it all meant. But I just always was this weird kid that, just wondering if there was another me, like in another universe doing different things that I'm doing.
That's the power of daydreaming. I've always thought that daydreamers were very. I was a daydreamer. Had this this kind of ability to be open and wandering. Were you brought up with any particular religion? Was it strict?
Oh yes, very strict. As a young boy, I went to Christian school for a few years. We were a very strict Pentecostal, and uh, like one church was Church of God, and the other was just a like a non-denominational holiness Pentecostal. But my parents kind of drifted from it as a teenager, and we weren't practicing, but that foundation was always there. So always in the back of my mind, when I would think about these things that I was telling you about, you'd always wonder, oh no, am I going to hell now for thinking, for even question, even asking the question about this, for thinking about that. Um,
Hmm.
a very strict foundation, but at the same time, that Pentecostal, literal Bible believing background, I think kind of maybe made me believe in the spiritual, the supernatural, the demons, and like in the Bible there's the literal interpretation, and the Bible's full of tales of giants and things like that. So maybe in a way it kind of put a foundation for some of the things I write about.
And everything is demons. So.
Well, I mean, I'm not like that, but malevolent entities, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I think they're probably out there.
The Bible is actually fascinating. I've been reintroducing myself to it recently, and because of a line of synchronicities. And there is so much dark and scary stuff in the canon, and that's just in say like the King James version. I'm not even talking about the apocryphal stuff and the what I think is juicier, the Catholic and Orthodox stuff. But uh yeah, there's a lot of supernatural stuff going on in those books in the Bible.
Yeah, and I think being introduced to that, and you know, not just the religious upbringing, but like I said, I went to in elementary school, I went to these Christian academies, and like on Wednesday morning, we had like a 2 hour, full blown church service, like 9 to 11. And, you know, it was very strict and very literalist interpretation of the text, and also a lot. There's a real emphasis on on prophecy, book of Revelations, end times events. So, I've always kind of had that a little bit of that doom and gloom and end time stuff kind of planted into. And I would tell everybody I'm not. I'm
Well,
not really of that. I'm not. I only go to church when I have to, like at Christmas time these days. So I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not trying to.
yeah,
I'm a real Bible thumper these days. I'm just saying that there I've got that back.
yeah. Well, and that's why we ask. And it's interesting though, if you look at pop culture, comics and sci-fi and all, you see it everywhere. These stories are just permeated everywhere, and so that's what has brought me into looking at at different books in the Bible, because I keep seeing, I'm like, oh, this is familiar, and then I go and I see here's another familiar thread, and it's in the Bible. So back there when you were young, did you have any of those classic childhood fears, like something under the bed, or fear of the dark, the woods, deep water, any of that stuff?
Um, I I I did have this one experience. So yeah, things under the bed, and I hate to admit this, my wife makes fun of me. like like when I'm in the bathroom, right? I always pull the shower curtain back, and I'm not scared that there's something behind the shower, but it's just this weird habit I had that I picked up in childhood, I guess, when I was scared that there might be something behind the shower curtain. And like when I was a kid, before bed, always check under the bed. And I do remember this one time, and it's one of those things you kind of push it in the back of your mind and don't really think about it until you start writing about these kind of weird things, and people tell you about experiences they've had. But I just remember this one time when I was a kid, and we were I don't know. I guess we were on a long weekend trip. Used to we used to go on vacation, if you could even call it vacation. We'd go away for a couple days. I think we were in a motel somewhere in western North Carolina, and I swear there was something on the you know in the room, that was like I called it like a little green man with glowing red eyes, and I whatever I know I was awake, I know I wasn't dreaming, and it's like I swear to God I saw it. Now I was a kid, so it was probably nothing, but I mean I remember it to this day. Like the next day, I told my mom about it. Like I'm like, Mom, there was this green man in our room last night. And we were my family was very religious back then, so she's like, yo, where liars go. So I just shut up and didn't say anything. But that is the one thing from my childhood that was kind of weird that I remember, but that's really the only thing. It was probably nothing, but I still do remember it.
How old were you then, Denver?
I want to say I was probably 8 years old. I mean, maybe 7, but probably 8. So I mean, and I remember everything from my childhood from 4 years old and up, and even some like when I was 3.
That's interesting though, and that's you're not alone in that encounter, and there's enough people that have reported similarities in that to give it credence. Now, you may know that.
Well, and that's why I bring it up now. It's because, like I said, it's one of those things that you don't think about for like 30 some years, right? And then somebody like through my website stuff. I mean, people email me all the time with their own experiences, and usually it's just like, hey man, this happened to me, and thanks for listening, kind of thing. It's not that like, hey, you should include this in a book. It's never like that. It's usually just like, I heard you on a podcast or read your book, and blah 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 blah. This thing happened, but I've heard several things like that, and almost identical, and it's like, hmm, I wonder if there is maybe, I'm not saying that there was literally a green man with the red eyes in my motel room, but I mean, maybe there was something to it.
Did you say what town that was?
I can't remember the town. I mean, like I said, I know it was in Western North Carolina. That's about it. It would have probably been in the Boone area or Asheville area, like what?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love Asheville.
Yeah, it would have been somewhere between Boone and Asheville.
Well, there's a lot of activity over there, and friends of ours did have done a whole series on called Hellier, which is also down in Kentucky. You probably know them, and so it's interesting, these stories that come out of Appalachia and in the area, just down in that whole area. I have family down there too, and there's a lot of old school stories, and of course, as you know, there's a lot of just people from the British Isles, like Irish and Scottish, and that brought some of these tales and mythos with them. And as we know, they fed them because they brought the storylines with them. Uh, Whether or not these experiences are real, they appear real and they can seem real, just like they did to our ancestors. And I postulate that they are personally, but because there's a collective feeding of them, and we don't know, we really don't know. Did you, in dreams throughout your life, before, let's say in like the first half of your life, did have you encountered strange beings in your dreamscape early on, at least the first half of your life?
So the first half of my life, yeah, up into my what I really remember is in my early 20s. Well, yeah, in my early 20s. So I'm 46 now. So say around the time I'm probably 21, 22, I actually lucid dreamed for the first time. And that was just kind of that was just kind of crazy. I mean, it's like I just for I don't really know how to explain it. It's just like I'm in my dream and then I realized that I was dreaming. It sounds weird, but it's like I realized that, like, hey man, you're dreaming, and oh my god, I can do whatever I want, you know. And I just kind of like took control of my. I don't really remember the exactly the sequence and all that, but I just realized that I was in my dream and I was controlling it, and that happened once for the first time in my early 20s, and that was pretty wild. But also in my 20s, I had you know, and this is probably around age 22, I think. I had I used to have those sleep paralysis really bad, but I also had, if you've heard of those night terrors, not just nightmares, but like I remember one time, it's like I woke up and I like I like jumped off my bed, went running. I went like running through the hall into my living room, did like a commando dive, and then I kind of like woke up and came to my senses. I don't know what the heck scared me so bad, but it's like I like woke up and I'm running through the house. So I kind of in my early 20s, I really had some weird stuff going on with my dream.
That how many experiences like this did you have with the paralysis night terrors at that time?
God, I mean, it was I can't put a number on it. It was pretty common then, and then later in life, like I've not had any of that happen probably in 15. Well, I take that back. I had one probably 8 years ago, but whatever. But back in my early 20s, I was having it quite a bit.
Did at the time in your early 20s, what was this is stuff I love. So what was going on in your outer world, your dayside world? Were you in college when that stuff was happening?
So I was my personal life was an absolute disaster. Right? It just I'd so like I got married when I was 18 because my wife was pregnant. We went through a divorce like a year later, and yeah, I just had a god awful personal life. It's like like work was terrible, and just anything. It was just an awful. It was just such a sad and horrible time in my life. So I think that's probably why I was having all the bad stuff in my dreams. I mean, the lucid dream was pretty cool, but like
Yeah.
I think that probably the sleep paralysis and stuff like that was probably just a product of all the negativity in my life back then.
hmm there's a lot of theory around that. There's, of course, that's what leads one to that frequency. And then, but once you're in that frequency where, you're just not having a good experience in your outer world and you get to sleep in, that's where all like the archontic into all the creepy crawlies that, heavy Christians will say the demons are, and all that feeding off your energy at that time, which also can keep you down in that place as well.
And that was a real dark period in my life. And like I said, I've not had a sleep paralysis. It's probably 8 years ago that I had one, but um, I mean I can't think that was really a bad time. Just it might have been an off day or something or whatever. But like now it's like, yeah,
What do you recall the one you had 8 years ago?
I just don't really remember. Well, I do remember. It's like I think the deal was, if I remember right, there's like a home intruder or something, and you know I was fighting like hell. could not get up. I just couldn't move no matter what. And then like into the dream, I knew I was dreaming, right? I knew I was dreaming, and so I'm like, okay, dude, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. This is a dream. This is terrible. This is awful, but it's only a dream. So I just need you to wake yourself up and it'll be fine. But I couldn't totally, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't like totally snap out of it and wake up either. So I was just like in this terrible place, kind of like in between dream and the dream's still going on, but I know it's a dream, but I couldn't get out of it. But at the same time, I couldn't move my arms and my legs for nothing. It just felt like I was paralyzed. So, just awful. If anybody's ever, I don't recommend sleep paralysis. That's that's what I'll say. It's just the worst.
It is horrible. I agree. I'm. It's never welcome in my life either. Every time it happens, I'm always perplexed as to how powerful it is. Where you really feel helpless.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I even wrote like in one of my books, the West Virginia book that I wrote. I talked a little bit about alien abductions and how a lot of people do blame sleep paralysis for a lot of the abductions because a lot of these cases do happen in the bedroom. So it does make you wonder. When these people say that these beings are taking them from their bedroom. Like it's one thing if you're driving along in a car or something and you're abducted, but all these people saying that these beings came through their bedroom door and abducted them, and I mean, you don't want to. I don't want to say that I don't believe in alien abductions, but I do. I have personally experienced sleep paralysis, and it is just it's the most horrifying thing, and I can absolutely see how a great number of these cases could be that. I'm not saying all, but I'm saying, some.
Yeah, absolutely. And the experience is completely visceral. So, yeah, I agree. And the numbers are high with the bedroom takings. Give us an idea of how the dreamscape looks to you. Color, can you read in it? Do you smell, touch, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would say my most powerful sense when I'm dreaming is smell. I mean, I can, for whatever reason, I've got like the smell of like my beagle. When I'm in my, I can, I can just smell like crazy for whatever, for whatever reason. But yeah, I dream in color, but I also dream in black and white, and but not very often. And usually when I dream in black and white, it's kind of a scary dream usually. I remember the first time I remember dreaming in black and white, I think I was like 4 or 5, and, it's probably because I had just watched, King Kong with, the one with Jessica Lange, but I
Oh yeah, the best.
remembered, there was this big monkey outside my, bedroom window, like, not a monkey, like a giant gorilla, and everything was black and white except for the gorilla, and it was kind of its fur was kind of like a maroon color, but like its chest was gray, and I just thought that that was kind of weird. I'd never had a dream like that since, but that's one of my weird kid dreams I had.
That's a great example though. And I love that you get both the black and white and the color. What is on the more rare side is the sense of smell.
I
And
can
that
crazy in my dreams.
can you give us some examples of how that plays out in a dream? Like somebody eating like a strawberry and you smell the strawberry. How's this work?
Well, so um, from the time I was 15 to about 32, I used to dip snuff, and Copenhagen was my jam. And I mean, I dipped like a can and a half a day. I mean, I love stuff. But, I finally when I was 32, I quit. I've not touched it since. But to this day, I will have a dream where I can just like smell. It's just like smells so good. So I'll have that, but I mean, I can smell. I'll be like, if say if I'm in a dream and I'm outside or something. I mean, I can smell flowers. I can smell grass. You name it. Just any kind of smell, and it's like really magnified. Dream.
That's interesting. Are you like that in your dayside life as well with a heavy scent uh, olfactory?
Yeah. I sound kind of like a weirdo, I guess, but like I can smell some things and it'll make me like kind of sad sometimes, and then I'll be like, "Why am I feeling sad?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well that smell reminds me of something I smelled at my grandma's house, and my grandma's dead, and I miss being a kid." I like that.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing weird about that. And I don't know if you could be too weird for our show. we do weird. So, speaking of your grandmother, and is she still alive?
No, my grandma died 2000. Yeah, 2000. She died 20 years.
So, with those that may have that that have passed, were you did you experience them? Did you know they were going to dream? Did you dream of them before they passed that something was going on? And if so, if you have those stories, I'd love to hear one. And also, if not afterwards, though, have you had relationships with your sacred now ancestors that have passed on?
Never had a dream like beforehand, that someone died. I've always, and this is true of not just deaths, but any traumatic event in my life, be it divorce, be it my parents splitting up, getting laid off. What happens with me, and this is what I tell people kind of jokingly, I'm half psychic. I know something's about to happen, but I don't know what. And so what'll happen, I'll just get in this funk, this just bad. I just have a bad vibe and I can't shake. And no matter what, I'm like, no, 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 you know, I'm kind of a believer in, positive thinking and stuff. And I totally believe in that. And so no matter what I'll do, I'll think positive, try to get my mind off of it. But in the back of my mind, it's like something is about to happen, and always, like I said, like a couple weeks later, it's like, when I'm in this funk, I get laid off. My grandma dies in a car accident. You know, me and me and the ex-wife split up or this or that, whatever it is, just happens. So I kind of have like that goes on, but I never have a dream. I mean, I've never dreamt of like someone close to me dying or anything like that. I've dreamed of my own death a bunch of times, but I've never dreamed of someone close to me dying and happening.
Could you give us some examples of dreaming of your own death and what those were like?
Yeah, sure. Like, well, God, I mean, everybody's heard that like those dreams where you're falling, like if you hit the ground, you usually wake up before you hit the ground. They say, oh, if you hit the ground, you actually die in real life and have a heart attack. Well, that's not true because I've actually hit the ground in my dream and then woke up. So I've had a bunch of those, like where I fell. Like the last one I remember, like I fell like off of I mean, I don't know why I was like working on a building. I mean, I'm not an iron worker, so but for whatever reason, I was up on this building that was being built. I fell and I landed on my chest onto a gravel pit, and I bounced up. And as I'm like, 6 feet up bouncing, I wake up in my bed. So I've dreamed a lot about that, but like the one that I remember most vividly is like I was in a car accident and I was on a stream, and this was it's like this winding road along a stream, and it was in Western Maryland, but it looked exactly like this stream near my grandfather's house, but it was in Western Maryland for whatever reason. But anyway, I guess I'd get killed in a car accident, and I was like kind of like floating around looking on my own body. That's the one that I remember most vividly.
How old were you when that happened? Do you recall the general?
I was in my probably around 30-ish.
Okay, cool. What about so I want to go places with that line of thought, but I don't want to get too far away from this when you're talking about how you will feel this sense of this kind of precog energy, this empathic energy you have where you get in a funk and then something happens. And earlier, as we were talking, when we were all agreeing, we're all kind of in a funk, and you're kind of in a funk right now. Where do you, what, and rightfully so, is it the same kind of funk? What do you think that's leading to? So I guess I'm asking you to dip into your precog empathic well and give us maybe a little insight into what your thoughts are with this, since you do have this history of tapping into events, at least in your personal life.
Well, that's the thing is like I mean, yeah, I mean, I've just got that vibe, and it sucked because everything was going awesome in my life until
So many people are saying that.
I mean, it was like awesome, everything awesome, and now this, and you got no control of it. So it's like one of those things. I'm not one of those people that really try to figure out what's going on when I have these feelings. I just kind of like, yeah, I just try to like push through it and like, nah, man, everything's good, everything's gonna be fine. But I don't know, man. I just don't like it, whatever it is, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm mad that I feel like my liberties have been taken away, or if it's like something actually bad is on the horizon. I don't know if I've just been, if I'm just too much of, doomsday sayer with, because I just feel like with everybody shutting down all the economic activity that we're in for something that's going to make the Great Depression look like just a mild downturn in the economy. So I just don't know. I don't know if it's just my, that bad case thinking stuff, if I'm mad or if there's something to it.
Yeah, there's, yeah, and as you know, you're not alone. But I like to hear thoughts from other people that are, that have a history with being empathic and in touch with that, which you just gave us, a lineage of that. So it's interesting to note that in lieu of all this. Also, with the dead in your dreams, what kind of contact have you had with others in the dreamscape that didn't feel like yourself? Like I'm not it's not a piece of your personality, right? It's something else. It's an entity, it's a spirit, it's an ancestor, it's a ghoul, whatever, but it's not you, and you identify it as not being you.
But usually it's more like I'll see like grandparents, great uncles or aunts, things like that. You know, like I'll give you an example. Like there's one, it's like a bright sunny day, and there's just like all these just like all these but there's like people from my dad's side of the family and people from my mom's side of the family, people that wouldn't have necessarily mixed, and we're like at this like picnic shelter, like like near an old family cemetery plot in the mountains back home. And just be like all these people, but and I'm there, but I'm like, but it's like again, kind of like the dream where I told you I was dead, but I was like floating, watching my body. It's kind of the same thing. It's like I'm like floating, like behind, like I'm looking like at the back of my head, you know, and just kind of like watching everything. That's kind of like how it typically goes. It's usually not like a warm and fuzzy, like, oh, come on, I love you. Yeah, it's usually it's not like that. It's usually more like I just said, it's kind of like it's like me back here, like watching a silhouette of me, in the group.
Yeah, that you explain that well. What do you think about uh, so in context to the structure of reality as we all kind of agree on it? So I meant to ask this earlier. I think I read Denver in your bio. You an architect?
Um, uh,
Uh,
I'm an engineer and technologist. It's kind of like a old
yeah,
hearing. I guess.
yeah. So it's similar in there. Well, it's interesting because you're clearly really right brained, but also that's a very left brain uh, career as well, where you use a lot. So you've got a lot of thinking going on in your brain. That's a good thing. But you're definitely very right brain from all the stuff you gave us early on, daydreaming and just the empath thing. And so it's interesting. I like people that exercise both of those hemispheres. And so in context back into the nature of reality here as we're agreeing on it in terms of dreaming, what are your ideas of the function of dreaming? Why do you think we dream?
I mean, I think and I think for some people it could be, if you're smart enough to figure it out, it would be premonition, and I've just never tried to develop that because I'm always kind of afraid, it's like, do I really want to know what bad things about, because I never really get the, you know, like I told you, I go in a funk and I know something bad's about to happen. Well, I never really go into and then something great like, I mean, great things happen, but I don't really get the premonitions of the great things happening. So I've never really tried to develop. But I think for a lot of people, premonitions and dreaming could be a big thing. And a lot of other things. I mean, I think there's a lot of messages there. Like, a lot of times you can dream something and, you know, like the next morning, if you can remember, your dream, you can kind of look back and, okay, yeah, I dreamed this and I dreamed, and that's kind of weird. That's probably from the TV show I was watching before bed. But oh yeah, that's probably, yeah, my daughter's coming home, and I'm kind of excited about that, or this, things like that. So I mean, they definitely have a purpose if pay attention.
Do you think they can be a portal though? So like you're mentioning, not really digging too deep into the development of the premonitions or of the psychic, senses further, which I think you're naturally gifted with. Clearly, you came in with that gift, and I'm not surprised from knowing the Appalachia area. Y'all have some sense over there. And is there do you see yourself at any point pushing through the idea of allowing yourself the freedom to push further. What is your fear of pushing into that? And can dreams be a portal to other worlds? So in that, I know they kind of sound like different questions, but they're kind of the same.
No, I mean, I think dreams definitely could be, like a portal into other worlds. Helping you develop gifts. Things like you're saying. I guess my fear is, and it just might be my old religious background and stuff, but like like lucid dreaming, for instance, like or like okay, I'll give you an example. Something I read about, like when I was in middle school. I read about astral project. I checked out some of these weird books at the library, and I'm like, so I really, read about it, and I tried to do it, never could make it happen. But then later on in life, I'm like, man, I'm glad I didn't make that happen. Like, like, what if I would have got stuck or something? I guess it's, like with these dreams and stuff. I guess it's just the fear that, like, okay, what if I do develop some kind of gift or whatever you want to call it. Maybe don't call it a gift, but a skill, whatever. What if you do develop it? That's there's responsibility with that. That's like a whole, like this whole paradigm shift in your own world that you got to start thinking about. If that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. It also says a lot about your character, how conscientious you are. It's a good thing. What, so, what are your thoughts on? Are you afraid of death?
I I don't think I'm afraid of death, really. I mean, I don't. It's not something I think about a lot, and uh, yeah, I'm not saying that, like I'm okay to just die tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but it's something I really think about. I don't. I'm not worried one little bit about catching the coronavirus. Well, if I catch it and I die, I just figure it's my time. I think I'm kind of fatalistic like that. It's like I think that we all kind of like have an appointed time that we're going to die, and if it's my day to die, I could stay home all day and I'm going to slip in the bathtub and break my neck. I'm kind of fatalistic like that. So I don't really fear doing what I want to do or things like that. So I'm not really afraid of death, but what I'm afraid of is not, I guess, not accomplishing what I want to accomplish, doing the things I want to do before I die. It consumes me a lot more than, being afraid of actually dying, itself.
You've done a lot and you've accomplished a lot already. So, if I could put this out there, what do you still have on your agenda that you really feel pulled towards, if you don't mind sharing, pulled towards, that keeps you tethered to this reality that you want to accomplish?
Well, I mean, if I don't see Easter Island before I die, I will have failed. That's
Awesome. Yes.
what I've told my wife. I'm like, if I die before I see Easter Island, I've failed. Period. So, but at the same time, I'm not really making any active. It's expensive to get there, and there's other things that are more attainable in the meantime. You know, travel. There's a lot of places I want to travel to. A lot of things that I want to see. It's more things like that. It's not, making X amount of money or doing this or doing that. I don't care about stuff like that. It's more, experiencing things like that.
Yeah. Again, this says a lot about your character. Um,
Don't you want to
and
ever go to Antarctica?
Oh, yeah, Antarctica, but that is really
Yeah, it's like what, 50 grand?
yeah, I mean, you could get there for 20 grand, I think, but 20 grand's a pretty good piece of money.
That's where all the giants could be hiding out.
It could be.
Yeah.
Big pyramid down there with an alien base underneath, and who knows?
By alien, do we mean Nazis?
Huh?
I don't know.
Not saying it's. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly.
They're alien
Well,
to us. That's all that matters.
yes. This, all these different differences, and yet there's so many similarities. How does the cryptid stuff in your life play out? So you've got these two worlds, and they're quite different, right? Isn't your dayside professions quite different from this whole other side of you that's exploring cryptids and all this wild, fanciful stuff and writing great books? How do you find, where's the medium ground here? And how does your wife, how does this tie into your life? How does this weave the two sides of your life together?
Well, it's kind of a, it's kind of a, it's a juggling act. It really is because my wife is. I mean, she's my number one fan, very supportive, but at the same time, she couldn't give a rat's ass about Bigfoot or like anything like that. But also at the same time, she's extremely gifted. As far as like she just has had tremendous number of like paranormal experiences, things with ghosts, and like she'll humor me kind of and go to like places that are supposedly haunted, and she's got a real knack for picking up on things and things happening, but she doesn't care about that stuff like I do. So she's supportive, and for me, I just have to kind of do the juggling act between, what I love to do and what I have to do that pays the bill. It's like really all I care about is the stuff I write about, things like that. But, you know, you kind of got to do the 9 to 5 to keep the bills paid and, you know, send those tuition checks for my kids to, James Madison and Virginia Tech.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a balancing act, and it's good you can do it as well. That's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, in a way. Uh, so, so with your modern day dreams and the way they play out, how do you experience the dreamscape these days? So let's talk about pre the world lockdown, before this coronavirus stuff, because everyone's having crazy dreams now.
Well, before that, I mean, I can't really say, my dreams have been pretty, I guess I would say pretty normal up until the lockdown. I told you, I think it was probably 8 years ago. It might have been like 7 years ago or whatever. I did have one of those sleep paralysis episodes, and I probably had one, you know, like a year or two before that. But I hadn't had anything like that. They were just I can't say that they were really I can't say a whole lot about them really. I mean, I would have the occasional dream, like about deceased loved ones. Like we talked about earlier, kind of like that. I hadn't dreamed of myself dying during that time. I did have a lucid dream. I do remember during let's say over the last, maybe I'll say like 5 years ago, I did have a lucid dream where, I realized I was dreaming and I actually had a lot of fun with it. I was like flying and stuff like that, and just kind of in control of everything. I mean, I didn't turn into a dictator and control the world, nothing like that. Just kind of like just kind of like flying around and, just kind of doing backflips and in the air, just kind of like, ooh, I'm dreaming and I know it and I'm in control, just kind of like that.
When you fly, how do you fly?
Like every way, like I'll do like the Superman for a while, and I'll do a backflip, and then I'll just fly like vertically, and just kind of however I want. It's just, I guess, just whatever hits me. It's kind of stupid.
I love that. Well, flying is so, I personally still just get so excited about that whole, when you're doing it, it's so fun. It's something really rewarding.
It's just like it's. I don't know. I guess it's like the first thing is I realize like, wait a minute, I'm dreaming, and I know I'm dreaming. I'm gonna fly, and then I just start like doing myself. I don't have
Right. And then you realize you can just pop in anywhere. But the flying is so fun. I just enjoy the whole idea of it because you're starting to defy our physics here, and that just deepens the experience of being in an altered state of consciousness, and then it kind of feeds upon itself.
Yeah, that's the main thing that I can always remember in those dreams. Flying, it's like that's just awesome. What-
Have you ever had a near death experience or anything like that?
um, I almost I don't think I ever had a near death experience, but when I was I'm trying to remember how old I was. I think I was 6, 5, 6, 7 tops, but I think I was 6. And again, this was in this was in a motel in Western North Carolina also. Like, I was swimming in the pool, my mom was, I had those little stupid arm floats on, and I figured I could swim, and my mom was over on one of those chairs, like, reading a book, and I'm like, "I don't need these things," so I pulled my arm floats off, and I dove in the pool, and I was drowning, and I, like, almost drowned. I'm diving up to my mom like, "Help, help," and she couldn't hear me or whatever. I guess I wasn't breaking the surface enough, and I just remember, like, my last one that I had, I like, "Help," and then I just, like, finally I'm, like, sinking to the bottom and saw my mom, like, dive in the water, and, like, I guess the motel manager come and dove in the water, and they, like, got me out or whatever. And I don't think I was, like, dead. I don't think they had to, like, pump me dead.
You were nearly dead. Mostly dead.
It was pretty damn close. It was closer than I would have preferred.
Were you conscious though? Were you there when, do you remember being pulled out? Like, did you have any observation of it at all?
Kinda, like, see everything, and I don't know that if it was, like me above seeing or if it was me seeing, but I remember specifically it was a motel manager, and I thought I saw him come, like, running from the motel office, which, like, was, I guess, like, back on the corner, like, near the pool, you know what I mean? And, like, my mom was over, like, if we're sitting here, over to my right. So, for me to see him come running, I was probably out of my body, if you think about it, because I was, like, sinking down in the pool.
Yeah, that's definitely what I think happened. When so during the process of drowning, did it what did it feel like? Did it hurt? What was the sensation of it?
I mean, at first it hurt, because your lungs and everything's filling up with that chlorine and stuff. But it did. After that, it didn't really hurt. It's just like, I guess I was old enough that I knew that, like, dude, you're gonna die. So it was more like fear, I guess, than anything. But then, just like at the last minute, it's like when I kind of figured, like, all right, I've got no more strength left and nobody's coming to get me, I just kind of like, just like, "Mm," yeah, just kind of like,
You fell into the experience.
I guess that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, it makes total sense. Yeah, I've had a couple experiences myself, and it's at the point. My thoughts always like, "Oh man," like to yourself, like,
Yeah.
"Is this really happening?" And yeah, for me, it was always like a resignation into, all right, this is there's what could happen here. It looks like this is what's going to happen.
Kind of what I remember is like, and you got to remember I'm like 6 or 7, kind of like, it's like it like jumped off that last little bit of energy I had, and I thought my hand broke the water. I'm like, but I know, but my head didn't get above it, where,
Yeah.
and I'm just like splashing my hand, and then I come back down, like, oh, it's coming.
When they got you back and all that, did you have pain? Like were your lungs sore or anything?
I don't really remember, I just kind of remember coughing a lot, spitting a lot, and I'm just kind of like, mom. I didn't say anything, but I just, just I like I couldn't believe my mom couldn't, you couldn't hear me, like, because I thought I like yelled at you a bunch of times.
Yeah, yeah, that's classic. Are you an only child?
No, I've got a younger brother and a younger sister.
Okay. And
So do
so
I.
with hey, synchronicity. That's our synchronicity bell. Did you dream about that experience afterwards?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I don't remember any, nothing in recent memory, but I have, like right now, just talking to you, I know exactly what that motel pool and the manager's office, or, the office where the person that checks you in, and I remember exactly what the pool chairs look like. And yeah, I mean, I have had some actual dreams, but I don't know if it was, when I was yeah, and several, but I think they were definitely before adulthood.
Yeah. Did you have a fear of swimming after that at any point?
No, not really. Yeah, um, uh, I I I learned to swim. I guess several years later, my uncle, he actually picked me up and threw me into the 10-foot water and said, "You can swim." And then I just finally like started dog paddling.
That's old school. That's how I learned.
Yeah, I mean, I've never swim.
I think we were at the Ozarks and I I think my mom threw me right over without any vest or anything, and it was like it was just
You're doing this, and then I doing it.
yes. You're gonna swim or you're gonna sink. And I don't know if you've been to the Ozarks, but it's not like the clearest water. So I don't know. And then what's so scary in the Ozarks too is all the times I've been, there and we used to go all the time every year. And we skied a lot. And I was the best skier because I don't like being in water. And you couldn't shake me. Then no matter what you guys slalom, I was the best skier. I was so good at skiing, and they couldn't shake me ever. We had speedboat, all that, and the whole reason I was good is because I didn't want to go down. I was so afraid of water, and they made me ski. My family is kind of sporty like that, and but I remember being on the side of the water, like after in the mornings and when the fishing people would bring in. And I saw some crazy, talk about cryptids. I've seen some of the craziest fish come out of the Ozarks that I have ever seen. There was this one thing that came out, I don't remember, and these were just like two good old boys fishing, and they pulled this this big, gigantic. I mean, these guys were drunk, but and smoking but they pulled out this huge thing, and these are old timers, and nobody knew what it was. And it was the craziest looking thing I've ever seen. It almost looked like it had the human head. It looked like a catfish human hybrid. That's what it looked like. Of course, they ate it. They were like, by God, they're gonna eat it. They caught it, and but it brought in a whole bunch of people that it got photographed and everything. Nobody could figure out what it was, and that only furthered my fear of the water, because there are things down there that we don't know about, and I have this deep feeling about that. So it just made that whole thing worse for me, that whole cryptid thing. But I'll never forget the old timers saying, this is the damnedest thing, and they're all just like, what is this? We don't, it was this whole to do. And I think still, I wish I could remember where in the Ozarks this is, but the picture made it into the local paper there, and it also made it into the little local diner on the wall, because these are local people, and with old time families that go back there, and you go into those diners and there's pictures of big fish that they pull out and weird stuff. And so it was just one of those that was on the wall every year we'd go back. But on that note, in your dreams, so this in specific, does water play a part in some of your dreams, like deep water with strange creatures?
Yeah, I can't really say that I've had any deep water dreams really. Yeah, usually it's more like mountain streams, or occasionally like a lake or something. But I've not really had the deep water kind of dream.
Yeah, none of the creepy crawlies and stuff.
Had any or nothing I can remember. I mean, you only remember what 20% of your dreams or whatever. But
Some people don't even remember that much. They come and go.
About a quarter, yeah, maybe more than that. As far as what I remember, I don't really remember anything like that.
Have you, and you don't have any issues with water?
No, I mean, kind of like you. I mean, like, I know even in little creeks, like what's in there, so I'm not, when I was a kid, like before we'd go fishing, we'd go catch minnows and
Yes.
nets, and a lot of times you'd catch snakes and stuff like that. So I'm not like a big fan of murky water, and like you go to the beach and you feel those little fish bumping.
Yes, I hate that. It's so distressing.
Hate that.
This is why I do not swim in non-pools.
I know, Jerry. It's so distressing when things swim up next to you. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't like that, but I don't really have fear of water.
Yeah. It's just, for me, it's what's in it. So what my mind thinks could be in it, and that's a powerful force.
Anything in the
Absolutely. Yes. It's interesting, but that still pulls into the whole, and the idea of water anyway. The idea of water and space are interesting because they really do tie into the idea of dreaming. There's something that ties those three things together that's similar. And within all of those, especially deep water or murky water, and then deep black space, and then the dreamscape, there are things that lurk, and our minds naturally go to, well, what could possibly be there? Because it's none of it's really heavily explored in a way that feels like we have a good grasp on any of it for real. So it's open. It's just open territory psychologically. But I wanted to ask you about deja vu. Do you experience deja vu?
Yeah, there's been times in my life where man, I can't really think of a specific example right now, but I mean, I can remember about 15 years ago, but I can't remember the exact situation, but I'm like I actually like stopped and did a double take and kind of like, you know, kind of like ask myself if I'm dreaming or something. Like, I swear, like this has happened before. Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that, several times. I just can't think of the specific examples right now. Uh, I have I have dealt with that a couple times, more than a couple.
I find them so fascinating, and for me, lately, they're off the hook. They're happening so much, and I just saw today somewhere on Twitter, someone posted, I don't know who and all that, but somebody posted like they're having so many right now that they're questioning everything because I don't even remember the gist of it other than they're having so many, and the idea of is this good or bad, uh and it's been amping up for me since this lockdown. It had been starting to amp up before the lockdown, but I was getting these what I call downloads through different means, and then this lockdown, and now I'm continually having more deja vus in each day where it feels like they're leading somewhere, and I'm fascinated by the feeling of deja vu because it comes on so interesting, and it takes you out of whatever you're doing. You go, oh wait, what is this? It just puts your immediate focus onto now and pinpointing possibly where could it be generated from. And so they're interesting. That's another like little portal, or and there's different theories. In the Matrix, it's not a good thing, but in other people say it's a good thing you're on the right path, and other people say you can push into them and change timelines, and there's just a whole bunch of different thought. But I was wondering, and so I didn't get this. I did listen to a couple of your interviews today and yesterday, but I cannot recall. And I thought I had a lockdown on this, and I didn't take notes. I usually do. Uh, it seems in my memory that you haven't seen any cryptids personally.
That is correct. I have not.
Oh, yeah. And so that I find that so curious because this is a fascination of yours. It's led you to writing all these books, and I mean, it's clearly a passion. Why do you think that is, having not had any experiences personally?
No, I mean, and that's the thing, and I almost, for lack of a better phrase, I mean, I almost kind of catch flack for it, like I'm not authentic enough, because I haven't.
That's
That's so silly,
that's
Denver. You
bullshit.
know that, right?
Yeah.
That's what because I remember one interview I did, and I don't know why I torture myself like this, but after I do an interview, sometimes I'll go through and read the YouTube comments, and I really could.
Don't do it. I don't do it either.
It's like, oh God,
It's a psychic attack platform. You don't want to do that.
I'm just a glutton. Anyways, some guys like this guy's seems cool and all, and he's honest, but he needs to open his third eye and he'll have way more experiences with this stuff. But I'm thinking, it's like if cryptids are flesh and blood animals like you guys think, there's probably not a heck of a lot to see anyway. I mean, let's think about it, right? As many people as are out there hunting Bigfoot, and there's even more now with all of the television shows, and now virtually anyone now can produce their own documentary with all of the the YouTube and the different means out there and stuff. There's still nothing concrete. And I don't mean to dismiss any, any Bigfoot believers out there or anything. I mean, I believe it's more likely than not exists and might be a flesh and blood animal. But, so why would you expect somebody to just, you know, just see? You understand what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, I've found what I have found mountain lion tracks in Virginia, which the Department of Game and Fish says that mountain lions do not exist in Virginia, and I've got photographs of stuff like that. But that's not sexy enough. Everybody wants a Bigfoot or a dog man or things like that. So, why have I not had a sighting? I would just say because there's not a heck of a lot of things, a heck of a lot of these things to even see, and we don't even know if they exist. So, if we don't exist, I wouldn't see one.
Well, see, that's not my question. Not why haven't you, but what brings you into the territory, into the field? What fascinates you so that you have a drive? You have a real drive, clearly, to want to know more.
I guess, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I think it's just that that so many people have these reports and these sightings, and I mean, you're talking people from every walk of life. You're talking from your people that you wouldn't necessarily believe, up to a person that might lose their job if they come forward with a sighting. Incredible people. You're talking people from every education level, every ethnic background, every educational background, just all walks of life are reporting, a lot of the same thing. And it just fascinates me. And I don't claim to know what's behind it, and it's not really my goal in life to find a Bigfoot or to find Nessie or anything like that. I just like to bring these tales forward and kind of kick them around and ask what could be behind.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do, and I think that I think it actually it grounds some of it too. Some people become really fanatic, and it's hard, which is fine too. I love passion at that level as well. But you have a real sense of groundedness with your search here that you're on, and also respect, which is nice to see. The What I see especially in the Sasquatch arena, is a lot of not respect for whatever these things are. And I personally had an experience with one, didn't believe in them before until I did. And I'm I've said it a million times, it was the scariest thing. And I've had a lot of scary experiences in my life. I never want to encounter them again. Never, never, never. And I'm glad I got out. So I like people that come from a respect of this field, of these things as a possible life form that's out there, rather than trying to hunt them down and get the hard evidence.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I don't take real strong stances as I mean, a lot of people like lake monsters, for instance. I mean, I've seen people on Facebook in these knockdown drag out fights. Oh, it can't be a plesiosaur because, plesiosaurs would have to come to the surface and breathe more, and it's got to be this. And it's like, guys, we don't even know like this. So why are we, like, being nasty, fighting about what type of prehistoric creature they could be? So I never really got into all that, and like the Bigfoot stuff. I'm like, if you're one of these people that think that it's a good idea to actually kill one to prove that it exists, I mean, I think you're a douche. I mean, that's just where I come down on that. It's
Yeah,
better.
absolutely.
I mean, it's better to. I mean, who cares if we prove it exists, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and but also as far as all that goes, I'm very open to, maybe these things aren't physical. I think probably like your lake monsters and things like that. I think I've always kind of liked those because I figure that's your biggest chance of it being something flesh and blood. But as far as like your Bigfoot, your dog, man, I think you got to put it on the table that maybe they're not something physical, but maybe I don't know, maybe some interdimensional, or more like a ghost, whatever a ghost is. And I'm kind of on the fence, I guess is what I'm saying, and I don't take a real hard stand.
Have you heard about Bigfoot sightings where the Bigfoot floats?
I've heard all kinds of weird things.
Yeah.
I've heard just like, I've heard of a lot of like where people say that they're pixelated, and what they always say is like the movie Predator, how the Predator
Hmm.
like pixelated, how it would kind of cloak itself.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of Bigfoot. I've heard of like Bigfoot floating. I've heard of just like a burst of like green light and it disappearing. And I've heard of it like disappearing and the smell of sulfur. You name it, you've heard it, and then you've heard the people that say that Bigfoot gives them messages, and surely don't know how much of that to believe.
Just like Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, you just hear all kinds of things, and you want to be respectful of everything. But
Sure.
I think that with the fact that after, let's see, what is it? The Patterson Gimlin film is
Right.
what it 7, and that is still the best photographic or video evidence we have. You're over, you're that far away from that, and you got tons of people out there, and you still don't have anything concrete. Maybe something not physical should be on the table.
Right. Have
That's
you I've also heard that interviewed people who've discussed like poltergeist like activity before or after during a sighting, which I find really interesting.
I've heard that too, and I've heard of people that have had sightings, like you said, and this was a big thing, like in the like during Mothman, during that thing, in West Virginia back in the 60s.
That was my next question about Mothman, so go ahead.
Mothman sightings, like all of a sudden after that in their homes, they had poltergeist activity going on, and I've heard that with Bigfoot and other things, and so of course, with me, with that Pentecostal programming back from back from
Demons.
second, third grade, it's like you can't rule out demons.
It's true, you can't.
It's interesting. So, for example, with my Sasquatch experience, my companion that I was with and the dogs, everyone experienced it, but we all experienced it in different ways. So I visually, it smelled. I mean, the stink was unbelievable, and it was definitely hormonal, right back in your, where your jaws clenching, that hormonal smell, like big animals, gamey animals give off too, where it's your teeth clench almost. I don't know how to describe it. But so the stink was palatable. It smelled. Like I said, I've said before. I thought it was like a skunk or someone was growing a patch of weed out there. It was gamey, and yet at the same time, it had a familiar scent to it, like a skunk or skunk weed. And however, I visually saw it. I think my dogs visually saw it, but they at least responded to it in ways I've never seen them. They were terrified. Everyone was it was terrifying, but my companion did not visually see it. He is like the salt of the earth type from Ohio, and like just I had no belief in this. I just can't tell you until this experience. But he heard it in his ear, a growl, So it was like a psychic connection to it, and a scary growl, like don't move any further. And we went into, back to back, moving backwards. So one of us is watching one area, the other's got dogs, and trying to back the hell out of where we were very remote in Mount Hood. And so it was like our story's a little of both, a little of possibly interdimensional with that psychic hearing, right? And then there were two. One was on either side, but I only saw because there was rustling. So you're separated by this little path, like, like big trail path, like elk and stuff would travel. It wasn't a real path. And it was real. I saw it. I mean, I saw it. I physically saw it, and it was not a bear. And it did look like the Patterson example. I had to go back and relook at that footage, and that's basically what I saw. So, but then I found, I had no idea, and then I found out Mount Hood's a hot spot for them. It's well known. All the people, staying in a RV for the summer, and asking people at the local cafe, the locals, if what's this weird owl that I keep hearing, like, oh, you're hearing Bigfoot. I'm like, no way, that's an owl. Nope. And then like, it was nothing to anyone that was a local there, and it was off season, so there weren't a lot of tourists. Anyway, so yeah, so my story is like a combo of physical and non-physical, which is interesting, I think. But when I thought back to the Ozarks fish thing, it reminds me of when when I got older and I started to see how messed up our waters are, right? And how we see weird things coming out of rivers, two-headed frogs, and like it could have been a mutation from some chemical plant that was on, some the edge of the Ozarks, and there it was, and that became my go-to explanation for, because it wasn't like a human's head, it just had a weird head. His eyes looked more round and humanish, but not human. And I'm a little kid, so the memory, like all memories, like all dreams, is hazy and it's not clear. But and half the memory is watching the old timers, just wondering what it was and going, ain't that the darndest thing? And like, they're trying to, and they still eat it, and they didn't care. And but that's where my head goes first. It's like, okay, so it's some sort of mutation and something like that, which would create a very strange, which does, as we know, creates very strange looking things.
Yeah, that's a good place to go first with these kind of sightings. Is it a mutation, or is it misidentification, right? Is it something that, an animal or fish that isn't native to here, but, is common in other places? You know, when I look at these things, that's kind of like the first place I like to go. Look at things like that before I try to get too far out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good policy in general in life, is to like it's that deductive way of thinking, right? So rule out all that obvious stuff. And uh it's funny with that fish, like it never, we all awed and oohed it then, and then it was just business as usual, and but it wasn't for me. It wasn't getting back in that water. And that trip I got out of it because of that thing. It was huge. It was like bigger than me. And I'm sure it was part catfish, and I'm a little kid. So, and catfish get big. So yeah, that said, so with all this that we've talked about and everything, have your dreams since this lockdown, as we move further into this kind of almost surrealistic world we're in that feels very dreamlike, have your dreams changed in the last couple weeks, last month?
Since I guess the lockdown, the lockdown got real for me. I mean, my wife got sent. I mean, I'm essential at the job that I'm at, but the way that they looked at it is they took the essentials and like pared them down, and so then you had a little group of essentials, and I was among that group. And I'm not trying to be one of these people on Twitter that's like, I'm essential,
Oh Lord. Yeah, right.
freaking worse. Let me just say that. Now that I got that out. No, so then they pared down, like, to the rest of us, and like if you didn't have something that was, absolutely had to be done, like right now, they just went ahead and sent us home too. So that's when it kind of got real for me, and that was about a week and a half ago. My wife, they had already told her to go home. She worked public school system up here. They told her to go home till April April 10th, I guess, and then it doesn't look like she's going to go back now. But anyway, that's when things really got real for me. Is when I guess things don't really get real for you until you are fully affected, I guess. And then so since I've been home, with that going on, every night, every single night, I just no matter how tired I am, I don't, I wake up like 10 times during the night. I've had nightmares every night, since my lockdown, I guess you could call it. I've had nightmares, like so bad that I've had to like, like get up, walk around, just get out of it, man. All right, like where I didn't want to go back to sleep because I'm just having, yeah, like just nightmares all night. Just stuff like that. It's really just been bad. I mean, even though I'm like home all day and I'm not really doing all that much, and I shouldn't be that tired. I'm like tired all the time because I'm not sleeping well, I guess, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. I'm exhausted. I'm not getting really great sleep at all.
Sure.
And I'm not having nightmare. I'm actually having amazing dreams when I'm having them, but they're alarming dreams at the same time. So the dreams feel good, but the dreams are like almost like post death, So they're great dreams because I'm like, oh my god, I've missed you, like people I've known from the past and environments I really love, and they've been amazing dreams in and of themselves. I'm happy to be having them, and at the same time there's this angst about it afterwards, and I can't sleep. So I'm getting very little sleep, let me put it that way. And it's just interesting, I keep hearing more people say this, and there's a lot of people talking about past loved ones coming, and animals, a lot of animals coming back in dreams. So do you have any images, like when you're talking nightmares, what, give us an example of some of the stuff you're seeing in dreams?
I've been having a lot of claustrophobic dreams, and I'm not somebody that's like real claustrophobic to begin with. I mean, I love going in caves, things like that. But I've been having dreams where, like, I had one dream, and this is one like where I had to get up and walk around, and this wasn't last night. It was yeah, I don't even know what days, Wednesdays. It was
Nobody does.
it was Monday night, which was 2 days ago for those that don't know what it is. Anyway, like I was actually like rappelling down into a cave, which I've done before, and that's fun and that's awesome. But this cave, as I'm rappelling down, just like got tighter and tighter and tighter, and then like my whole body like kind of front like this, and it's like it's like I was getting stuck in it, and like about 3/4 of the way down, like I realized that, oh my god, I'm not, I can't go down anymore, and I can't get up, and I'm just stuck. And then I just like started breathing real heavy. I woke up and my damn pillow was soaking wet and my shirt was soaked. I mean, it was gross. I had to change my shirt. I had to put a new t-shirt on. I had to flip my pillow over. It was just disgusting. But that's one example. And I had another dream, like, and this was like another cave dream. I don't know why I'm dreaming about caves, but whatever. Like I was like crawling, like going into a cave, like where you gotta like, sometimes the entrance is narrow a little bit and you gotta crawl through and then it opens up and I'm crawling through and it just got real tight and like it's kind of one of those deals like where, like halfway through I couldn't go any further, but I was kind of like stuck. And I was, like trying to get back and I couldn't go forward or back.
This is extremely significant for me. I mean, I did a whole video called Dream Hole, and because of this cave thing, I'm blown away by that. By the way, it's another validation for that. That's just a side note, and for anyone that follows my psychic stuff, which I put out through music videos, my psychic predictions, and but the sweats, Denver, I have had several nights where I'm just in a wet sweat. My hair is sopping wet. The pillow, it is gross. Everything is completely wet, and I'm not like that. And it's been very perplexing.
So that's like, man, I hope my wife don't wake up.
It's intriguing. Jerry, I see you've got something to add here.
Yeah, from like 10 minutes ago. You were talking about sleeping lately. What I've noticed is it's hard to get contiguous sleep. Like lay down and go to sleep for 8 hours. I can't do that lately. Maybe 2 or 3 at a time, up for a couple hours, back to sleep. I've had a real difficult time staying asleep. Is that what you guys have?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's terrible.
Yeah, it does suck. And blows at the same time.
Denver, you look like you're going to add on to that.
No, it's just exactly what he said. It's like 2 hours max. Yeah, and that's whether I'm really dream. Of course, I'm having bad dreams every night, but like I might wake up after a couple hours, whether I'm dreaming or not, and just wake up. Uh, it's okay. It's 3 o'clock now. It was 1 o'clock earlier. Kind of like.
Yeah, it's weird. And that leads to my next question for you about you let us into it with telling us what day it is. What's your experience of time through all this now?
What do you mean? Like my dreams or?
Just in general, like just the idea of time now, because it feels very askewed since we're not on our general wheel, right?
Yeah, no, I remember, yeah, it's like Jerry texted me, or Twitter messaged me tonight. It's like, hey man, did you get the links for the show that I emailed? I'm like, oh dude, I'm sorry, I haven't even checked my email, because usually, used to be I would check my email, 7 o'clock in the morning, and now I don't know what day it is. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter what time it is, and I'm just it's just really weird. I mean, I hate it. I mean, as much as, like we bitch about our jobs and things like that, just having some sort of normalcy and routine is at least for me, it's kind of important, just because I am kind of organized in my life, and it's just been really kind of hard for me for everything to be so unstructured. So yeah, it's Wednesday, but it's like time is going slow, very slow, but at the same time, it's like the days just fly by, but the weeks go so slow. It's like so when they sent me home was like a week and a half ago. That seems like 3 months ago, but the days it's like Like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock already. I've not done anything yet this
I know,
morning.
right? It's almost like without the distraction of work,
it's,
you have to like deal with reality.
it's weird, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, I can like, like I might get, so like for my normal job, I'll get up at 4:30 in the morning. I hate that. That sucks. That's the worst thing in the world. So now, I'm sleeping to like 7:30, but I don't really get going to like 10, because I don't really have to, and it's just, I don't know. That it's weird. That's all I know to say. It's weird.
How is it affecting your wife? Is she having these experiences with the time and the weirdness too?
She's the same way, and it's like one day we'll both be in pretty good moods. And I was telling Jerry, like before the show, it's like, so it's been like past few days, it's been like 40 degrees and cloudy. But like last week, it was in the 70s and sunny. Those days were much better than these. It would be much better to go through this if the weather didn't suck. Like, so these cloudy, gloomy days, it's just like, ugh, we, it's for both of us. It's just like, well, like one day you'll be in a pretty good mood and be like, okay, everything's gonna be all right, and then the next day it's like, I don't know if anything's ever gonna be okay again, and it's just kind of, it's just been kind of like that for both of us.
It's definitely interesting, and there's a lot of studies for when people like go into retirement and they have this there's a depression people go into because they had pardon me, they had they had cycles. They were, they had schedules and cycles, and it just moved everything along. It kept everything structured, and ta da ta da. And then all of a sudden, you don't have them, and there's this whole. It's almost like a little death, where it's this whole process of an emotional roller coaster of trying to process it, and really what you're doing is deconstructing and slowing down and unwinding into your now. And but it's got a whole array of emotional shades to it. And one of the things that I think I find is a possibility for power in this is that when you get to the end of, when you normalize it enough, where you can find the grace in the moment, where you can find, and I mean that in a larger sense and not in a religious sense, where you can find the light of it. Then you can go into deeper states of consciousness and really start opening up with ideas of what are you really here doing, what what's important, what's the most important thing to you, and all that stuff starts to unfold. But a lot of people don't make it there. A lot of people get stuck and they get drowned up in you know alcohol or whatever to cope, because it's very difficult to unwind.
And doing a lot of day drinking.
Yes. And that's a transition. That could be a transition. It just depends on how long we're looking at this, and honestly, what's the real story and what's really unfolding. And that's part of, I think, the angst that so many of us are feeling. I think we all feel like we're being hoodwinked here in some way, because really, seriously, what are the numbers and our whole world's locked down?
Are
A
you?
lot of questions here, right, Denver?
That was my whole. I don't mean to sound insensitive, and what really makes me mad is on social media, people shaming people for, oh, you're selfish for going out. Like, well, wait a minute,
Mhm.
sick people, not for help. Number number two is like, how dare you shame people for, not cowering in their house in fear. That's kind of how I mean, I'm very kind of libertarian like that. It's like, I feel like, if we're going to make a mistake, it shouldn't be that we should overreact and crash the economy. If we're going to make a mistake, it should be more on the side of, not imposing draconian measures. So it's just, I've
Absolutely.
been going through a lot of anger with this, and when you see people that and even people that you love, like on Facebook, and like they need to arrest people who won't stay home. It's like,
Oh
okay,
my.
great, they're letting nonviolent criminals out of jail. You know, first place, that's a whole other topic. But
Yeah.
them out of jail, but you want to put law-abiding citizens in jail who don't want to cower in their home. So I don't know. A lot of this for me has just been a lot of anger because like I said, I like my mom. She's high risk. She's got COPD. So my dad. He went through his last round of chemo a couple months ago. He's high risk. They should absolutely be home. I don't want anything to happen to them. I love them. I love all the elderly people out there that are at risk, but it's just I can you really justify crashing the economy because we're afraid that they might get sick? I mean, think about that. I mean, think about what's going to happen. I mean, people just have no idea what could be in store for the economy. I mean, you can't just print $6 trillion and everything.
No, they have to print another 6 trillion.
Yeah.
I just read an article today that they're talking about a potential of 110,000 restaurants closing permanently because of this.
They have. I mean, think about it. McDonald's.
It's a crime. I mean,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, carry on, Denver. I was just adding to that's terrible.
I was gonna say, like McDonald's can ride this out, Walmart can ride this out, but what me and my wife are talking about, we know small business owners in the community, restaurant owners, and I mean, there's people, and even like the McDonald's, like we said, they can ride it out, but what about a local person that just bought a franchise? They just cashed out their 401, their everything they got for their life savings, took a mortgage out on their house to start a restaurant, and then they're just shut down because the stroke of a pen from one of these governors that is and what you're seeing is these governors are trying to one up each other with who can be the most strict. Like in Virginia, Northam just he's like, oh, we're going to be closed down to June 10th, and that's just because the guy up in Maryland said that they're going to be closed down till when. It's just getting ridiculous. But I digress.
Yeah, something's got to give. That's something's gonna give. I'll put it that way.
I think one of the most ridiculous things that I keep hearing is that the whole world is on lockdown to get Trump out of office. I'm sorry. That is I mean, I can't buy that at all. The whole world went on lockdown to get Trump out. I mean, yeah, there's been crazy Trump, the Democrats here and that want him out clear, and it's been from day one and all that craziness, but I just don't buy that. And it's hard to buy any of these narratives. And then you start thinking like, well, what is I mean, my mind goes to, okay, so they're fine. This is the reset, right? So we're going to go to whatever it is. But then, why are they going to bunkers? What the continuity of government that just got put out, and other governments are locking down their dignitaries, and that doesn't seem financial
apropos for a virus.
I mean, yeah, not at all. This seems like there's something more going on, and
like
bigger.
An asteroid.
Exactly, which they just said, that's now all of a sudden on the table. And then that thing that hit, where did it hit, Jerry? And now they're saying, well, it was one thing, but it was another. Is it in Africa or somewhere? This huge one that just hit.
I don't know. I was going to say the earthquake activity around the Yellowstone caldera is picking up too.
Right over by me, Idaho had like a 6.7 earthquake. That is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that made me nervous. And what's ironic is the day before, I'm looking at, I have a lot of, my valuables. So whatever your valuables are, things that are valuable to me that I feel like a caretaker to. And mine just happen to be a lot of antiques. I kept thinking, I feel like I should put down on the floor things that I don't want to see in case there's an earthquake, right? Like thinking logically like that. So I don't want these things I love to fall off tables and break. And so that mind was that, and I live in an area where earthquakes are talked about. It's not uncommon. The Cascadia subduction zone, where that's how we live. It's like California with theirs. It's awareness here, and uh but I had just had that thought was creeping through my head, and then Idaho, the weirdest spot to have a very large earthquake happens, and people here in my area felt it was too early. I was sleeping because I sleep until like 2 now, and because I don't get to bed until like 7, and and so I have that thought. There's a major earthquake in a weird place, and all around me, there's a bunch of earthquakes. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put some stuff on the floors and under tables just in case, because everything is unhinged. And maybe whatever's coming in the sky is really coming. I don't know. And see, for me, and I think for a lot of people, Denver, everything's on the table right now because this is so absurd. And one of the things that is making it absurd is the fact that the reaction all these governments are having towards something that doesn't seem to be producing the numbers to warrant this behavior.
Yeah, that's what's been bothering me, and I've told people I'm close to from day one, like, look, something doesn't smell right. I don't know what it is, but and again, I don't want to be that guy that minimizes it. There is human suffering and things involved, but I'll just say, and this is just for me, I still don't know anyone that has it. I still don't know anyone that knows anyone that has it. And, like all these hospitals that are supposed to be overflowed, it's not where I live, not, I mean, it certainly isn't, and that's not to say it couldn't get there. So, don't get me wrong, but it's just, if this were like a virus, like in the movies, when you start bleeding out your eyes and your ass and you die 3 days after you get it, I could maybe kind of understand more. But for something that's, 98% survival rate, and that's what we know, because they say you could have it and you don't even know you have it. So we don't know who's already had it. So the numbers are far lower than what they're reporting, and what they're reporting is, like, you could really be dying of cancer and just have contracted this, and they chalk it up as a COVID-19 death. So, I mean, the survival rate is probably closer to like 99.6%, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't get crashing the world economy. And so I don't know. It's like that part of my brain's like, well, did they accidentally release the wrong did they accidentally release the wrong one into, they were supposed to release
Mhm.
the public, and they accidentally did this one, but they gotta keep people scared so that they don't look stupid, or I don't know. I just thought all kinds of things. Who knows? But I will say that something doesn't smell right.
Yeah, and this is the thing that we need to do as people, is to question really what's going on. And so I don't question that there is some sort of bioweapon out there, but it's not, the numbers aren't warranting this kind of behavior. And that's where the questioning's furthering. So why are we having this kind of lockdown? Why are governments going to their plan B of continuity of government, why did even Trump push this? He's like giving us carrots. We're going to get the government open by Easter. And now he pushed it out. So it's like to keep people passive enough in this quarantine, which is also keeping people from being outside and looking up, mind you. And it's, because if you just say, if world leaders say that they know something's coming, whatever it is, something big's coming, and this could be just a natural event. It doesn't have to be an unnatural event, something just natural, and they see it coming, like the movie Melancholy from Lars von Trier. It doesn't serve the public's interest if you're a government to let them know ahead of time, because you will bring in the Mad Max scenario if people think that there's something that major coming, and major enough that governments are going into continuity of government protocol. So, and that's real. That's absolutely real. The seed bank in Norway started restocking and all kinds of stuff that's very alarming.
Have you been watching the Dark Journalist thing on the continuity of government?
I haven't, Jerry, and I should probably.
Pretty interesting stuff.
I probably should do that. But this is part of what's keeping me up at night too. It's like, okay, none of this makes sense. And so it's making me, we at the same time, it feels like we should know and be able to deal with it. But there's so many crazy scenarios that could happen with knowing. We're sensible people. And we don't, we have a sense of conscience. I'm not going to go murder my neighbor, that I've had or someone I've had a crux with, or, I'm not a meth head and I'm not running, low on meth or something, and I'm going to have a freak out. And now since the world might be having a big catastrophe, I'm just going to go balls out, I'm going to do anything I can. I'm not one of those people. I'm a sensible person and I don't panic, and I take things as they come. And I could handle if I was told there's something that's coming towards us. It looks big, and there's going to be some damage. You may not make it. I can handle that information. But can a lot of people that are unstable handle that? So I get the idea of why governments might be very leery to release information like this and tag us along and slowly look at what's happened in where they've slowly gotten people to kind of get some provisions, right? Even though the choices people are making with all the toilet paper and stuff have been hilarious.
Did you see what a truckload of toilet paper crashed and burned in Texas yesterday?
That was $1 million worth, I bet.
Talk about karma, Jesus.
Yeah. So it's like these kinds of things that are sitting with us that are pulling back and looking at this kind of logically, where this is not adding up, and how it's not adding up is not looking good.
Yeah. I mean, think about the things that, like I was saying, all these governors are trying to outdo each other, but at the end of the day, they're only going to be able to recoup so much federal money. I mean, they're bankrupt in their states, and everybody's doing it. So, it'd be different if there were only 10 of them doing it, but everybody's doing it. And, and like all of the sports, I mean, for them to cancel the March Madness tournament, are you kidding me? For them to shut down Vegas,
the Olympics, everything.
but the NBA playoffs. I mean, all
NASCAR, all of it.
Opening day of baseball is not going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it's really, it's like I said, something doesn't smell right. And again, I mean, for a virus that if you get it, you're, unless you got underlying health problems, I mean, you're probably going to be just fine. It's really weird. I mean, I just don't understand why they're not just telling people, use social distancing as much as possible, and you know, if you've got underlying health problems or you're elderly, you know, stay inside, have your groceries delivered, that sort of thing. You know, the rest of y'all, you know, be careful and take your chances. I just can't understand why they're not
That would be reasonable.
be reasonable, and they're not being reasonable. And I think that that's the scary thing, and that's why my mind just goes in all these different directions, and it's like, you know, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I honestly, Denver, I think that we should be, since it is this absurd, and now that we've had time to process some of the data that just is not there, and the counter stories that we're seeing from people pulling up to hospitals with nobody there, no wait lines, and all these other counter narratives that are going on to what is being pumped at us. I think we should start to have those, this is not a dream moment, this is really happening moment. But on that, I know we've gone on 2 hours, and I was wondering if you had any questions at all, Jer.
No, you, as you usually do, psychically read the chat and answered everyone's questions.
Okay, great.
So.
This has been a great Nox Mente, and different because of the times we're in. And so I thank you for being so candid with us, Denver. Yeah, this was a pleasant talk. I mean, this was a dark subject, but we're in dark times. But it was nice to get to know you further, and, you know, to get some context with your books that you've written and the stuff that you've put forward.
I mean, I had a great time. This is unlike any interview I've ever done in a good way. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Thanks. Did you have anything you wanted to plug?
Yeah, actually, if you know, if anyone's interested, I've got a new book coming out. It's called Giants, Men of Renown. It's going to be published by Adventures Unlimited Press, and you can pre-order it right now from Amazon or directly from the publisher on the Adventures Press Unlimited. I think it'll be out around the July time frame.
Great. We're looking forward to that. Be a good book. Love those giant topics.
It should be a lot of fun if you're into that thing. I'll be delving into a lot of you know, a lot of the myths, and then, you know, some of the supposed historical encounters, large stature people.
Is that the politically correct word for giant now? Large statured
Yeah,
people.
Large statured. And there's a politically correct term for like rock trolls in Iceland.
What about baby hill giants? No.
Right.
Anyway.
But, you know, hopefully one day we can see you or meet you at a Crypticon or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
End.
If they ever have them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much, Denver. Thank you, Nish. It was a great show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Next week, we have an obelisk, and there's one of 2 guests, so I'm not going to say who it is. I'm not sure yet. But we've got someone lined up.
Oh, the mystery.
Mystery, because that one first person hasn't returned my email yet. So it'll be a good show, I promise. We always have good shows.
The show must go on, and it will.
Indeed. So thanks, everyone. Stay safe, stay home, question authority.
Yes, question reality.
Question in reality. And be safe during this Matrix breakdown. Have a good night.
Yeah, big love to everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.